Big Time podcast. And this particular episode, as we do once a week, we're going to be talking about lessons learnt from the 60 entrepreneurs that I have interviewed so far across all of the Big Time podcast. So, look, as I said, part of what we do with the Big Time podcast is we bore down and we break down, what startups have to do, how they do it, and in these episodes, we really take the lessons learnt from all the startups that we talk to. So the whole idea is we are trying to break down everything so that you guys can learn as much as you can from those that have been before you and pick up any advice, pick up any things that they might have done. And, what I'm going to talk about today, which I'll go into in a minute, and this is something that, that I've picked up as well, and I'm going to document this because one of the things that everyone keeps saying is about this routine, and I talked about that on the podcast last week, and that's get up early. And so I'm just documenting at the moment. I've had to get myself out of my winter routine where I wake up till 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I've now decided I'm getting up at 6 o'clock every day, and I'm documenting this so that I can then pass that back onto you as well, is the difference that's going to make, and hopefully the better that does for me or whatever, so that I can then pass that lesson on to you. So I'm going to measure that because that is a real lesson that I've picked up out of everything that we've looked at. Before we really break into this, I've just got to quickly talk about Innovation 15. And, it's the biggest startup competition in Australia this year, and it's going to be Australia's biggest schools competition and startup, because we've got to get entrepreneurialism into schools. So we've got a program that we're going to get into schools, and then we're going to make it a yearly program that they can learn that will culminate in the competition. But if you want to enter in the competition, in the open competition, get part of that 25 grand, go to innovation.com and you can be part of this great competition that's going on. Lessons learned. I'm really going to go back and talk about clarity, because I had to listen to one of my older Big Time podcasts today, and that was with Laura Humphreys, New Zealand woman who, lovely lady who has this company, Liberate, and she started off in London as a clerk, as an office girl. She then took the idea to start a company herself, which she did. She was then able to on-sell that to Ogilvy, who was one of the biggest advertising companies in the world at the time, still is. And, now she advises on that. It's a fantastic story. So I went back to her and listened to what she had to say, and she went through with what some of, the best advice she'd been given. And she had the huge, pleasure and advantage of sitting with Robert Kiyosaki before he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the things he went through and that she does is when you start your business, have the end goal in mind. Now, sometimes that's a really hard thing to do, but what Laura Humphreys was saying was, have the end goal in mind. So when she started her business, she had that in her mind that she was going to sell the business. She had in her mind how much she was going to sell it for and who she was going to sell it to. So she's really narrowed that down. So to get to there, she's got to start here. So what she did was she then said, okay, well, to get to there, I'm going to have some key milestones along the way, which meant she was able to map it out. So if she wanted to sell it for $1 million, well, she's got to get it to be worth $500,000. She's got to get it to be worth $250,000. So she had to map it out, which then means that she's been able to say, okay, well, there's all my milestones. Why don't I now go back and now chuck all of them, not out the window, but put them all aside? What's the first milestone? And work on that and go for that. And that's really interesting she said that, because I'm now going to go back on one of my little favourite Warren Buffett stories where he said to his pilot, look, you're still my pilot after several years, which means I'm not doing my job for you. So he goes, what I want you to do is go away and write down all of your goals for the next 10 years. He went and did that. All of your goals for the next 5 years. He went and did that. He goes, now what are your goals? what I want you to do is go through all of that and select your one. So he did that. He came back and Warren Buffett said, you know what? Chuck everything out. Work on that. There's your one goal for right now. So it's really fantastic where we can draw that parallel with what Laura has said, that she's taken that initial milestone and that's what she works on, and that's your clarity. And you know what? That'll get you out of bed each day. That'll get you up and going to get that first milestone, and it gives you your clarity. So there's our lesson learned. Get that clarity, make your map, narrow it down. You've got your clarity, work towards that goal, and I'll see you soon on the Big Time Podcast.